So find the inverse of each function. Steps for finding inverse. Switch x and y. Solve for y. That's your inverse. So remember, f of x is kind of like y. So switch x and y. So x equals 4y minus 8. Now we solve for y, and that's our inverse. So add 8. And to get y by itself, you divide by 4. Now y is by itself, that is the inverse. We're going to write it as f inverse. And it's x plus 8 over 4. For B, it's the same thing, same steps. F of x is like y. Now you switch x and y. So x equals 2y plus 3 over y plus 4. We need to solve for y. So multiply the y plus 4 up there to the x. Distribute the x. And we're trying to solve for y, so get your y's together. So we'll move the 4x over. Now, since they both have a y on the left, we're going to factor it out. And get y by itself by dividing by x minus 2. So we have 3 minus 4x divided by x minus 2. And that's the inverse. Now, I do want to point out, since domain and range is a big part of this class, the domain of f is everything but negative 4. X cannot equal negative 4. The range of f inverse should be the same thing. Because domain and range of the inverse is the inputs and outputs switch, so the range of f inverse should be the same. Negative 4. It cannot be negative 4. The range of the original function was 2 over 1. So it's everything but 2. And the domain of the inverse, everything but 2. Denominator can't be 0, so it's everything but 2. So just remember, inverses from the originals, the inputs and outputs switch. So the domain and range also switch. So f of x is like y. Now switch the x and y and solve for y. Add 4. And to get rid of the cube, you're going to cube root. So that is the inverse. Now, a couple things to remember. Since the index was odd, you don't have to do the plus or minus. because the index was odd. Also, if that was an x squared instead of cubed, if it said y or f of x x squared minus 4, you wouldn't even bother to find the inverse, because in order to have an inverse, it needs to be 1 to 1, and x squared is not 1 to 1. If it's not 1 to 1, there is no inverse. But since it was x cubed, it is 1 to 1, so you can find the inverse, and we did. If it was x squared, there's no inverse because it's not 1 to 1.